So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Suzie Parkus, and I've kindly been asked to speak to you this morning by Chloe, and I'm representing South Westminster Bids. So I'm going to take you on a bit of a journey this morning, so I hope you'll bear with me. I want to tell you about a day back in May 2015, a seemingly normal day for me. I was going about my business, and I knew that I was going out in the evening. Now, the reason why I want to tell you about this particular event is because I got invited to an event to go dancing, in fact. And at these dance events, they're gender balanced. And one of my friends contacted me to say, would you like the female ticket? At which I jumped at the opportunity. They're like gold dust. So we'd arranged it a couple of weeks or so before. So the day rolls around and I'm really excited to be going out that evening. And I'd set in my mind that I wanted to leave by a certain time, just because you don't know what the roads are going to be like. And also I didn't need to be there really till like 10 o'clock at night, but I wanted to be there early to socialise. So I'd set myself a time by which to leave. And I remember looking at my clock and thinking, I'm running a little bit close to time here and I should really be going. But I was doing the typical Suzie thing at the time, which was, let me just double check my bag. Let me make sure I've got water. Have I got my shoes? Do I need to take a snack? Have I got my keys? Just double checking everything. For whatever reason, I have no idea why, but sometimes I do that when I leave the house. And I remember doing those things and watching the clock and just thinking, oh, it's another 2 more minutes, it's another 3 more minutes or 5 more minutes past the time that I'd set myself to leave. I finally left the house and I'm driving down the North Circular. So I know that most of you are based in London, so you'll know where I'm talking about. So I'm driving down the North Circular and I'm approaching Hanger Lane roundabout. And on the way there, I decided to stop off at a petrol station. And for whatever reason, I think I wanted to maybe pick up a chocolate bar or something. But knowing that this was also going to make me late. And I remember I wasn't speeding. I know that in myself, I was feeling an anxiety and thinking I'd set myself a goal by which to leave. And I'd left a little bit late because I was faffing around. And now I feel the need to stop off, but I'm going to carry on to my journey. Now, for whatever reason, I do remember looking in my rearview mirror. I think my driving instructor taught me well, you know, check your rearview mirror, check your side mirrors, just while you're driving so you can be aware. I remember looking in my rearview mirror and noticing a car. I also remember in my peripheral vision, seeing that car going off to the right-hand side as the Hanger Lane roundabout went round. It is a notorious roundabout for those of you that know it and for those of you that don't. And it's very easy to get lost in the lanes and get confused. But I was going straight on to my destination. And I was slowing down because the lights were turning red. And I remember that car that was behind me that then went to my right, now coming across from my right in front of me. She didn't hit me. This is not when it happened. What happened was I was slowing down. The lights turned red. The car that came from my right-hand side that then ended up in front of me went over the red light at the same time that the lights on the left-hand side were turning green. She was now in the way. She was in the yellow box. Now, for those of you that know, you're not allowed to sit in the yellow box. It's an offence. So she reversed slightly. And then as the lights turned red on the left-hand side and the lights were turning green for us to go forward, that car didn't move. So I did what most people do, and I tooted to let her know the lights were green and could you kind of move, please? Because, you know, I want to carry on with my journey. What I didn't think was going to happen, happened. I tooted my horn, and the next thing I know, that car's moving. It's not going forward, it's going in reverse. She was still in reverse from having reversed slightly out of the way to remove herself from being an obstruction to the cars coming from the left-hand side. And I remember bracing myself, holding the wheel and tooting the horn to alert her to the fact she was going backwards, but she didn't stop. And I just had to brace myself. And as I braced myself, I knew the impact was coming, and it came. Felt a bit disorientated, you know, when you get bumped by another car, you don't expect it to come, but I saw this car coming towards me. And I kind of shook myself off a little bit and was like, what's happened here? Now, I'll save you all the details about what happened with the police and the ambulances and the hospital and everything else. But the long and the short of it is, I did stop that car, and we exchanged details, and everything seemed okay. I had a little niggle across my shoulder and just felt a little bit upset, to be honest, about what happened. It had interrupted my evening, and I didn't expect it to happen. And maybe there was a bit of shock as well. You know, you see a car coming towards you. And I made my way home that evening, feeling a bit angry, a bit rattled, a bit upset, frustrated. You know, I'd planned my night out, and you know, I don't understand how this happened. How does this kind of thing happen? And and I can see people still coming in. I went home and did what everybody else does and called my insurance. I went to bed. I went to bed that night. And then I woke up the next morning, and I remember not feeling okay. I stood up and the room was spinning, and I could not steady myself. I remember brushing my teeth, feeling like a tree swaying in high winds, and just thinking this isn't okay, and just kind of like holding onto the sink because I just felt so disorientated. I walked myself to the kitchen to try and make a cup of tea, and I had to hold onto the worktop, and I just didn't know what was wrong with me, but I knew something was wrong. And I remember the light of the day, you know, daylight, feeling like it was piercing my eyes. So I took myself off to A&E to go and checked over, and I got told I had whiplash, like you do when you have an accident, and to go home and rest. 3 days later, after the accident, I had a physical symptom represent itself. Now, I'd experienced this symptom sometime before, 10 years or so prior, and I believe that the reason I experienced it was because I experienced an event in my life that was stressful. So I didn't worry too much. I thought, okay, I've experienced this before. My body clearly feels a little bit stressed, and I'm sure it will settle down. For the next 3 months, I didn't quite feel myself. I had severe light and noise sensitivity, and my mind felt really quite muddled. Now, at the time, I want to tell you that I was a famous dating coach and matchmaker. I was in the media, I had clients finding me, I had everybody talking about me, I was doing great things, I had a radio show, I was called on to the news. On the outside, I had the business that everybody else wishes they had, to have that exposure, to have that status in their business as an expert, to be called upon, to be known about, to have that professional reputation where people are talking about you and gladly passing clients your way. Ultimately, that's what we want, isn't it? To have clients finding us and to just do the work that we love. And I remember people saying to me, Suzie, it must be amazing. You're famous now. You're doing so well. Your life looks amazing. We all look at other people and think their life looks so amazing. Now, I want to remind you that on social media, especially, we're always sharing the highlight reel. Very seldom do we tell people the struggles that we're having. Hence why they say, you know, you'd never know what it's been like to walk in somebody else's shoes to get to the destination that they've got to. And I'm going to tell you some of the, you know, the steps that I've taken to get to where I am. So on the outside, I had this amazing life. I was on the radio at the time. And I remember when I did one of my radio shows, I felt like my words were on the tip of my tongue. And it just stressed me out. I pride myself on being articulate. I pride myself on being a good communicator. And it was just like my mouth and my brain wouldn't engage. And I was concerned. So I took myself off to a neurologist, and he told me that I'd suffered a brain trauma. Now, that to me sounded a little bit scary, if I'm honest. And he explained to me that basically in the accident, my brain had had a bit of a shake-up. And the symptoms I was presenting with basically were that of a delayed recovery from whiplash, because everybody has a bit of a shake-up when they get hit by a car. And he wasn't too concerned. So if he wasn't concerned, I wasn't going to be concerned. But I was very aware that every time I put down the phone, I couldn't remember who I spoke to or what I said or the appointments that I had agreed to. I had to write everything down, and that I was struggling to speak. I was also aware that I was falling into comatose sleeps in the middle of the day and needing to go to sleep very early, that I was a nervous driver, that I had to wear my sunglasses a lot because the light was piercing my eyes, and that loud noises shook me up. And I just didn't feel settled in myself. Now, I want to jump forward to February 2016, again, a seemingly normal day. And on this day, I had committed to something. I was helping somebody move house, and there was a lot of stress and anxiety around this move, and I could feel it. So I got up, I made my breakfast. I remember having my breakfast in front of the TV. And as I went to get up, I didn't feel okay. And I felt something shift almost in my body. I'll spare you the details, it's all going to be in my book. But I knew something wasn't okay, and I acknowledged it. But I had to carry on because I had a commitment and I had to be somewhere. But I knew that this wasn't quite okay. So I monitored it for a week, and then I went to the doctor and I said, this isn't normal. This isn't how my body behaves. And so they said, well, let's just wait it out and see what happens. So another week goes by, and this challenge is still presenting itself. At which point she said, I think we need to take this further and do an investigation. So I wasn't going to hang around, and I have private medical. So instead of waiting 4 to 6 weeks for a scan, I said, I'm going to go private. So my scan happened quite quickly, but I also got given some pills to help deal with the symptoms that were presenting themselves. So on the Saturday, I saw my doctor. Monday, I had my scan. Friday, I went to get my results, and my consultant looked nervous. And I know this consultant. The next thing I know, I'm being asked if I'll come into hospital the following week to have a procedure. In fact, it was multiple procedures. And I remember feeling really scared signing the piece of paper where it said, anything can happen in the operating room. Are you okay to say yes to this? I thought, God, but I need this, I need to do this. And I just don't understand how, again, one seemingly normal day was taking place, and then all of a sudden my body started to do some really weird things. So I'll spare you the details again, but needless to say, I went to hospital and things didn't go exactly according to plan that day. But she was happy with the work that they did. The following week, actually I lie, I've skipped a point. The weekend, that happened on the Friday, on the weekend I didn't feel okay. And they checked in on me, and they weren't sure if I had a virus and or an infection. So they decided to give me some pills just to be on the safe side. Then a week later, that physical symptom that I was feeling came back again, and I was concerned, and so were they. So they monitored me again, and I got some more pills, because pills are always the answer at that point. Then the following week, we decided to have another consultation and discuss things. And this is the day that changed my life. My consultant said to me, Suzie, the procedure went well. Everything's fine as far as we can tell. But ever since the day of this accident, you and your body have not been okay, from what I can tell. And I do not understand what is going on. And neither did I, quite frankly. I just wanted answers. To me, I just had a car accident. I was minding my own business. I was just living my life. And there was this catalogue of events that were going on, and nobody had the answers. Even the previous symptoms that I mentioned to you, with the light and noise sensitivity, and then the other challenge that came up 3 days later, I went to so many consultants. I had so many blood tests. Everyone was trying to figure out what was going on. One consultant said, I'm not sure, it's not within my jurisdiction. I can't find anything. Let me send you to somebody else. So that went on from May till February 2016, when this other thing happened. And then that all stopped the day of the last consultation with my consultant, when she said to me, Suzie, your body is textbook, and we've done everything that we know that we can do within our remit, and I don't know what the answer is. And something possessed me to ask the following question. And I said, do you think that there is a connection between the emotional and the emotional self and the physical self? Because I have seen every consultant under the sun. I have had nearly every test done possible, and nobody seems to have an answer for me. And in myself, I feel like I'm okay, and none of these prognoses and diagnoses that I've been given sit right with me. Something is, we're missing something. And the only thing that we haven't looked at is what's going on up here. And she said to me, maybe. So to me, I saw that as a green light to kind of explore this. So she didn't say yes, so it wasn't like a green light. She didn't say no, so it wasn't a red light. It was kind of like maybe, so let's take it as an amber. But for me, it was a green light to explore this. I didn't know where to start. I really didn't. And it's been a really long journey, one that I cover in my book. But I decided to go down the alternative route. And I cannot tell you chronologically all the different people that I went to. I went to a lot of people who thought they had the answer for me. I went to people that do NLP, timeline. I've seen a shaman. I've seen a healer. I have seen so many people. And what I want to tell you is this. I believe at the time I was bloated and stuffed and full of stress. And I didn't realize it at the time. I was so busy being busy, achieving. I had this goal, excuse the driving analogy, but I feel like in the distance over there, there was this goal. And I was so focused on it to the point that I was figuratively driving down the super fast highway of life. I created my own fourth lane, the super fast lane, because the quicker I get there, the quicker I can get on to the next thing. The more I deny myself certain opportunities, so spending less time with family, not giving the full complement of time to my relationships, compromising on certain things, maybe skipping the gym today, having a meal that's less involved so I can save some time, but trying to find more time to go faster, to focus on the goal. Because when I get there, I can move on to the next thing. So the quicker I go, the quicker I get there, the quicker I can get on to the next thing. But at the time, I didn't feel like life was going fast. I was enjoying the ride, and everyone was telling me how seemingly successful I was. But the truth is, I believe I was dancing with the devil. Because if you think about it, I had decided that night in 2015 that I was going to leave by a certain time. And even though I didn't have to, I didn't have an appointment, it was for myself. I decided I wanted to leave at, let's say, 8:30 p.m. and I left at 8:40. So perhaps I felt like I needed to catch up by 10 minutes. And some people do. They might put their foot down a little bit quicker to catch up those 10 minutes. Again, I didn't need to. I didn't have an appointment. But we do have a horrible relationship with time, most of us. And I believe that I was doing things that was stressing my body out. I was spinning too many plates. I was maybe making too many commitments. I maybe didn't systemize my business very well. But either way, I felt stressed and compromised. But hindsight's a wonderful thing, and as Steve Jobs says, you can connect the dots backwards, and it's only by looking backwards and having done a lot of work I can see these things. And I think that my body was just at this point where it was bloated, almost like Charlie in the Chocolate Factory with the little boy who kind of expanded, and if you popped him, he'd burst. And I think I was potentially at that point, but I didn't realize it, because we don't realize. The reason why I use the analogy of bloated on stress and being stuffed on stress, when you think about it, our stomach has a certain capacity. And sometimes we're enjoying our food so much, we might eat a little bit more. And so we expand the size of our stomach. And then the next time we end up eating more because our stomach can hold more. This is why you hear people talking about shrinking the size of their stomach. I think I was doing that with the way I was conducting my life. I was testing myself in terms of how much more could I take on? How much more could I push myself in order to achieve? And the other thing I learned on this journey of going down the alternative route is about trauma. And the way I explain it is this. When you walk down the beach with your bare feet, you leave your footprints in the sand. It's a lovely feeling. But when you look behind you, those footprints aren't there anymore. And that's because the sea has come and washed them away. In life, we go through situations, and I believe that they create footprints. Whether you've got children or not, you will know when children are born, they come out like these little beings of light that are just so pure. And that's why we love being around children, because they're so unscathed and they take us to this place of absolute purity. And all our stresses and woes generally just fall off us when we're around kids. And what happens is we go through life, and it could be bullying, for example, and it leaves an imprint behind in terms of how we feel about ourselves. And something might happen later on in life and trigger that footprint. It could be that somebody abandoned you, you went through a breakup, you failed at something in life. Either way, it creates this negative trauma in you, and these footprints stack up. And the way I explain it is that these footprints, they kind of just stack up all over you. And the more they stack up, the less of that beautiful light that we once emitted is able to shine out. And we become very dark and very heavy. And these traumas impact the way that we think, feel, and respond to others. And it completely impairs our ability to show up as this light person who is able to fully engage with everything that we're experiencing in life, because these little subconscious triggers are kind of sparking off and running the show, and we don't realize it. Sometimes you might catch yourself getting angry and going, how did that happen? Why did that happen? It's because your subconscious is running the show and we don't realize it. So as I went through this alternative journey, I realized there have been things in my life that I have made them mean something. That's what happens. We make something have a meaning, and then we try to protect ourselves moving forward so that we don't carry any more pain. And we try to avoid situations, or we become very defensive, or we become insecure, but it happens. We get changed as we go through life, as these traumas appear, and we don't wash them away. And so I use the analogy of going to the supermarket, looking at shampoos, conditioners, and body washes. I've got dark curly hair, and so, you've probably got a different kind of hair type, and you'll need something different. You might need something for blonde, straight, fine hair, for example. It's exactly the same with these footprints that we've accrued through life. We need to find our own body wash, shampoo, whatever you want to call it, to wash those footprints away. And it is possible. And when you wash them away, you expand as a person. And that light that, has been sort of dimmed down because of these footprints is able to shine out of you again. And that's been my experience. And it's such a beautiful place to be, to just kind of come back to yourself. And I've had to learn this on my journey of trying to understand why my body wasn't happy, but the doctors couldn't find anything wrong. The other part of the equation I've learned is having a poor work-life balance. When I think about it, I was compromising everything and everyone. I would put off social engagements because I had something to do for my business that was more important. I would give my partner less time because something was really important. Or I would give somebody less time because I needed to try and find time somewhere else. Either way, I didn't have a good relationship with time, and I wasn't managing my time well, all because I was busy being busy. I was being a human doing, not a human being, and I wasn't fully engaging with all the opportunities around me and all the people around me. And, we don't have an infinite amount of time on this earth, and I think that we think we can put off till tomorrow. Oh, you shouldn't put off till tomorrow what you can do today. And we have this notion, and we think that we need to get everything done, and we think that everything's important. We're not taught to prioritize. So on this journey of kind of uncovering what was going on and why my body was feeling so uncomfortable and traumatized, I realized that our emotions govern the mind, and the mind governs the body. And if we don't understand our emotions, they run havoc and they run the show, and we don't realize it. And we end up sort of running around as these unconscious human beings. And then we end up feeling very sad that we've maybe sort of shown up for somebody in a way that we wouldn't otherwise, because our subconscious was running the show. And so how did I really pull this all back together, and how did I start to create the life that I want from here on in? Well, in those first 3 months after my accident, I really had to meet with myself, almost like how people have met with themselves through COVID, how they've been at home and gone, oof, the pressure's off from work, and I don't have to be here, and I don't have to be there, and there aren't all these things on me. I couldn't do much. So as I'm lying there in bed in my dark room with the blinds pulled because the light was burning my eyes, I looked around and I was like, is this my life? Is this what I've been working towards? Where are my friends right now? I didn't have friends. I had acquaintances, friendships, and friendships are a relationship and they take time and they need to be nurtured. And I didn't give them the time. I had lots of acquaintances and I didn't feel like I had anybody that I could really call on and say, I'm struggling. In fact, my pride was so high, I didn't want anyone to know I was struggling. That was at the time anyway. And so as I lay there and I just thought, what's it all been for? Because the money that I have in the bank and all the media badges that I have under my belt, they're not going to make me feel a full human being. These are accolades. This isn't what life is about. So I had to start putting it all back together. I had to start asking myself, what do I want my life to look like from here on in? This is an opportunity, being at this crossroad right now, to design the life that I want. I've had a very rude awakening and I've been able to understand that I've been operating as a human doing and not a human being. And it's time for me to actually take control of my life and design the life that I want. So I started asking myself, what do I want? What do I want my business to look like? What do I even want to do for a job? Do I even want to do this? Because actually at the time, it was something that I could do, not what I wanted to do. And this is something I talk about in my coaching. Are you doing things in your career, in your business that you want to do, that excite you to get out of bed? Or are you doing something because you can do it? There's a different energy around you and what you do when you want to do it, as opposed to you can do it. And so I started to design the life that I wanted and the relationships I wanted. I asked myself, what are my values? What do I really, really value in relationships? And where I'm falling short, how can I bring myself up to meet the bar? And I took myself on this journey of doing what I call now a life audit. I put my life, love, and business under the microscope, and I got to see where all the cracks were. And it was an opportunity to see where I was falling short for myself and for other people. It was also an opportunity to understand my own modus operandi at the time and how it wasn't serving me. And so since May 2015, I've done 3 personal development events, and I have understood so much about what it means to be an aligned human being, to have your head and heart fully connected, to be that solid person that people want to be around. You know, when you meet people and they go, nice person, but something's a bit off about them. That's what happens when you don't know yourself. I've talked about this in previous talks. When you know yourself, other people can know you. When you know yourself, you can know others. But when we're busy, we're being human doings, not human beings. And we don't have the opportunity, thank you, we don't have the opportunity to really just understand how we're being in this moment and how we're showing up for ourselves and other people. And it's almost like the analogy, I don't know if you've heard it, about somebody who's holding a cup of coffee and somebody bumps into them. And you're like, I spilt my coffee because of you. But what if there was tea in the cup? Then it would have been, I spilt my tea because of you. But actually what we're talking about is what's in your cup. And what happens is when we get bumped by life, whatever's inside of us spills out. But when we're busy, being human doings, not human beings, actually we are these very frustrated, unhappy humans who are probably bloated on stress, trying to be all things to all people and being nothing to no one. And we go to bed at night, on the most part, feeling unfulfilled, looking around and not understanding why other people seem so happy and have it all. And it's because they're probably more in alignment than you are right now. And that only happens when we dial everything back and we slow everything down and we say, who do I want to be? What's the life that I want to design? And who do I need to be in order to receive that? We talk about in dating about, I want to find the one. I talk about you need to be the one. You need to be the one for everything that you want to attract in life, love, and business. Everything is energy. If your energy is not radiating at the right frequency, you will not attract that which you want. You will not be able to sustain that which you want. If communication is really important to you, like it is me, I need to work at it. Otherwise, I'm going to have really poor communication with other people. And so I wanted to share this story with you today to help you understand that if life is not going the way you want it to right now, whether it's in life, love, career / business, you really can take control of the reins again, and you can design the life that you want and not wait for your life incident to happen. I want to share with you one more story. This was probably the nail in the coffin for me. At the end of 2018, I went to an event for entrepreneurs. There's about 500 people in the room. We were all there wanting to find out the latest secrets, to get to the next level, because, we all want to keep growing in our business, and we want to be the best at what we do. And I remember being introduced to this guy, Paul, and Paul's actually mentioned in my book as well. And I was talking for all of 30 seconds. He said, "Suzie, what do you do? And what do you want to do?" He picked up within the first 30 seconds that I was on a mission to help people to be the best version of themselves, to fully understand themselves and fully express themselves, because I wasn't living a fully embodied expression of myself at the time when this happened. And I wasn't experiencing the life, love, and business that I wanted, because I was busy being a human doing, not a human being. And he pulled out his phone. I thought, how rude. I'm talking. Why are you pulling your phone out? And he's scrolling his phone. I'm thinking, what's he doing? And he shows me a picture. I didn't know what to make of this picture. The poor guy looked like he'd been beaten to a pulp. His eyes were bloodshot. There was bruises around his eyes, blood coming out of his eyes. His face was swollen. I thought he'd been mugged. He said to me, "Suzie, I know your story." He said, "That was me. I had a heart attack and I died, and I got resuscitated after 4 minutes. I was living the life that you were once living, and you and I are the lucky ones. We've got a second chance." Guys, I want to tell you, if you feel like you're bloated on stress, if you feel like stuff has happened in your life and it's creating triggers for you left, right, and center, if you know that maybe you don't have a good work-life balance now, and you're maybe trying to be all things to all people and being nothing to no one, or maybe being nothing to yourself, now is a phenomenal opportunity to really create a new tomorrow, to design the life, love, and business that you want. If I can do it, you can too. I go about my business and I magnetize things to me. I get people commenting on my energy all the time, my insights and my awareness. But that's because I've done the work. When we know ourselves, we can know others. And when we know ourselves, others can know us. Life is one big relationship. Relationships are built on connection. Connection comes from communication. And that all starts within us. If we are not connected to ourselves, we connect to nothing, and we connect to nobody.